I just want to say hello and welcome to the next in our series of webinars that's hosted by the PPMA, where we're here to aim to share experiences, learning and practice that hopefully you can take away and consider within your own organisations. My name is Jill Parker and I'm the Assistant Director for HR and Communications at the City of Doncaster Council, but I'm also a Vice President and a Senior Board Member of the PPMA. So just before we start, just a few housekeeping notes, if you don't mind. Can you keep yourselves on mute unless you are asking a question? We are recording the session today, but it'll only be the speaker that will be shown. And also, if you've got any questions, please do use the chat facility so we can pick those up as we're going through, but there will be a little bit of time at the end in which you can ask your own questions. So I hope that's okay. So it gives me great pleasure in welcoming you today to this session on behalf of PPMA to hear from Steve Hoban, Commercial Director for the Recruitment Division within Commercial Services Group, who's here to talk about people and recruitment processes. So over to you, Steve.
Hi, Jill. Thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you everybody who's joined. A brief intro to myself as I go through the slides, and then what I wanted to do was, I suppose, open a discourse really around the further development of automation within recruitment processes. I recognise, obviously, that the audience for the PPMA and this webinar will be, will include probably very experienced HR professionals who will probably know a lot more about the implementation of automation than I do. But what I was kind of hoping might be of interest for the discourse is my background being predominantly from maybe a more recruitment focused than talent acquisition, although I've done both, and therefore what I hear and experience about the customer experience of automation, and the customer being the candidate in this case rather than necessarily the client. So obviously delighted to take questions through from either the chat or whatever means. Otherwise I'll try and leave some time at the end for discussion or questions, and we can come back to anything. Okay, so just trying to move on one, forgive me. Sorry, how do I move forward a slide? Can anybody advise me? Forgive me, I'm a bit more au fait with Teams than Zoom.
You can just click the button, like the arrow button.
Which arrow?
The arrow button in the bottom left-hand corner.
With you, yeah. Sorry, please forgive me. So this is a brief overview. Who are we? Commercial Services Group. So Commercial Services are a LATCO organisation, so local authority trading company, owned by Kent County Council. So a lot of public sector heritage. Since our conception, we've grown. We're now a significant family of brands. We support councils with services and help with procurement services and other solution services right across the UK and internationally. I work specifically within our recruitment division, which is highlighted here in terms of our partnership agreements with local authorities, so our Connect to Kent, Hampshire, Luton, Surrey and Dudley, and our recruitment consultancy businesses, which are Connect the Staff, Connect the Social Work and Interim and Executive. So it's a blend of what I would call, genuine partnerships with local authorities, where we're owned by the local authority and we work on all the contingent supply for those local authorities, and then what we would call, our usual agencies, our consultancy that provide, the same sort of services. So myself personally, I've been with Commercial Services for about 18 months now. I have over 20 years recruitment experience in both externally based recruitment around executive search and internal talent acquisition. That's been gained within a number of well-established high street brands, and for 15 years within Capita. And I've done a lot of recruitment within the public sector, and the vast majority of that has been within local government settings for the last 15 to 20 years. Here at Commercial Services, as I mentioned, we work across 8 joint venture brands, so we're well immersed in local authority recruitment, and we support our local authority partners on all aspects of their contingent recruitment specifically, but also per projects. Okay, so just a bit about me. So you're either, well, as Tom Preston very there clearly says, you're either the one that creates the automation or you're getting automated. And the reason I've included this quote is, if I just move on to the next slide, I think it's fair to say that in all aspects of our lives now, we come across automation, whether that be having to select the number 1 or 2 or 3 on a phone call, or in my case, the the regular fight with the self-service till in Asda. So we come across all of these things every day. And, undoubtedly, I think for anybody that uses these automations can see where there's benefits. And, particularly in a staffing and hiring environment, we've definitely seen an increase in automation, whether that be in the facilities of the job boards we use or in our in-house ATS systems, right through to chatbots and video interviewing. And I think it's probably widely accepted that there are significant benefits for recruitment functions, HR functions, around speed, capacity, efficiency, and all of those things. And in a vacancy-driven market, which we have been significantly so for a big chunk of the last sort of 10 years or so, or probably even last 20 years, or in any environment where an organization has to deal with a huge number of applicants, so perhaps the Big Four's graduate campaign or any kind of recruitment campaign that has a huge volume of applicants, you can see why and how automating some of the sifting processes can significantly reduce recruiter hours, man hours, in terms of plowing through that work. But I think times are a-changing, as they say, and I think we find ourselves, or many people find ourselves, in a different market now, in a market where candidates are a premium and there's significant vacancies in many areas with not enough candidates to fill them. And I think one of the questions I'm floating is, are our automated systems that we've developed to drive efficiencies for us as clients, are they really geared around sifting people out of a recruitment process at a time where we might be needing to sift people in to a recruitment process? So while I don't have the answers, it's really the discussion point I wanted to kind of explore in this. So again, I appreciate I'm probably, teaching a lot of this audience to suck eggs, and I don't mean to. But here's just some of the key things that can be automated. And I think it'll be obvious just by some of the names where you can see for your in-house talent acquisition or recruitment team, there could be savings. So applicant sourcing, clearly one of the most time-consuming parts of a recruitment process, particularly as we mentioned in jobs where, you may have a high number of applicants. But I think that trawling through applicants and trying to decide, who is successful or unsuccessful is clearly, one of the, well, I suppose in a sense, finding the people in the first place as well. So applicant outreach, so connecting with those applicants, taking the time, whether it be the first touch to acknowledge their application, to let them know when an interview might be called. All of those things take man hours to draft letters. They're prone to errors where automation can do these things more timely. They can be consistent, and they can be, a significant less chance of human error. Resume screening, clearly again, another real significant time absorber. Interview scheduling, probably again, the significant time absorber of any talent acquisition function, the phone backwards and forwards around availability, when we know automated services can share diaries and calendars and allow people to self-book and make each other available. The reminders and follow-ups, are key. We know it's really important, the customer journey through any recruitment process, and automation allows us for these additional touch points, these additional updates, whether it be via texts or emails or whatever, to keep a candidate engaged in the process, which is important. And again, we can engage with that candidate both pre-post interview, and then we move on to onboarding again, which is really important in terms of candidate experience. And I think a recent survey suggested that about 47% of the people that drop out after an offer and between signing or agreeing and signing a contract was around their experience of onboarding and kind of how that was managed. So again, it's one of those disconnects we can often see internally between a recruitment function and a HR process that might lead to a delay in contracts being sent out or onboarding completed. So automation can clearly make that hopefully a bit more of a reliable experience and walk the candidate through. So all looks great. You know, we read through these things and we can see how, you know, that can save us money and how it can look great. So some of the benefits, again, just to recap, you know, greater efficiency through automation, reduction of time-consuming activities such as CV sifting, interview arranging. You know, HR departments can have less people doing this work, reducing their headcount and driving cost savings. Candidates, you know, more candidates can be screened. There's just more hours in the day for the machines and the AI to plow through a vast number of CVs to shortlist them on criteria that can be preset around questions to just get through the volume. And obviously it can pause and capture these CVs and get them into your in-house database to create future talent pools. One thing that's really, you know, very, very current at the moment, and rightly so, is how we approach bias in any recruitment process. We know it's a kind of human failing. And in theory, you can achieve more equitable hiring through your automation. You know, you get consistent approach. You don't have the experience of the tired interview that's, you know, the fourth interview of the day and not quite as much energy for that interview. You get a fairness of questioning, a fairness of approach, ensuring all candidates have exactly the same experience through the recruitment process, which can help reduce, you know, bias. Reduce time to hire. Obviously, you can get through all these stages quicker than a human being can send an application, schedule an interview, and send a letter, and all of those wonderful things. Then, you know, the automated processes can churn these things out. So reduce time hire. And of course, can capture more data, you know, reliable reporting, reliable analytics around diversity, gender, demographics, age, whatever you want, really. You can grill that, and then it helps make, you know, more informed decisions from the HR department going through. Increase touch points, you know, an opportunity to reinforce your brand as you engage with candidates, and drive forward your value proposition through repetitive engagement with candidates, and improved onboarding and experience and compliance management. Again, very administrative and task-heavy roles that can be managed effectively through automation processes. So sounds great. You know, we've got our system, we've got everything running super smoothly. You know, we've got these efficiencies we've generated. We're confident that we're touching base with the candidate 1,000 times. We've got our onboarding process absolutely fantastic. But I think one of the challenges is that we perhaps have developed something that is fantastic for us. You know, we're happy with it all. We think the candidate's getting a great experience. We're over the moon that we're getting through more CVs. We're delighted that we've got a wide range of analytics. But actually a recent survey suggested that, as I've said here, 82% of applicants feel frustrated with the excessive automation of recruitment and believe that technology, you know, has taken away something in that process. So I suppose the question that was asked at the beginning is, where is the role of people still in this, you know, drive, this tsunami towards automation? And the importance of customer experience shouldn't be underlooked, I think, or overlooked, sorry, particularly in a market where we find ourselves now, where, you know, candidates are premium. And that isn't just perhaps in a market where we would have thought where, you know, there's always been skill shortages of highly skilled individuals. I think many of you that are attending here coming from local authority backgrounds, and based on our experience of working with local authority partners, we see shortages right across the spectrum now. So I've certainly in my 25 years never known such a candidate-driven market as we're in now. So how those candidates perceive the outputs of our automation is important, because while we might be really happy with our reports and our touch points and our seamless time saving, is the end person happy? Is the candidate happy? And they're our, they should be a real key focus for us. So just some statistics here. This is obviously put together by someone selling an automation service, so I can't vouch for their reliability, but Kelly sources, Kelly are pretty good. So, again, 95% candidates more likely to apply again if they had a positive experience. 97% would refer others. 88% would increase their purchasing with the company, and 55% would positively, tell others about their experience. So we can see it's really important that we make a very good impression with our candidates, and not just the ones that we sift out and not just the ones that we ultimately go on to hire. Everybody who has an interaction with our recruitment functionality gets some sort of candidate or customer experience from that. And it's important, I think, we're aware of that, not just when we're designing where we can use automation, but recognizing is our automation still fit for purpose in a changing marketplace. So what is it that I think people still do best? Well, I think selecting the right candidate can be done by automation, and you can build algorithms and all of that sort of stuff. But I think people really still have a role to play when we're interviewing and selecting the right candidate based around attitudes, behaviors, alignment with organizational values. It's very difficult to construct questions that, we'll get the answers to these in an automated way, because they often might be based around, or examples of these might be based around really individual and specific experiences. And part of that, I think, is, the idea that we may have to encourage interviewees, to expand on their experience, to really drill down to some of the behaviors. Key to our current market, recognizing and assessing soft skills. I think in a world where, the candidate shortages there are, if we're too focused on key, or what we would have said are mandatory skills and experience, then there's a lot of talent can slip through the net. LinkedIn research discovered the 5 most important skills in demand today: creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, time management. And I think just thinking about those words, you can see how it'd be very challenging for an automated process to really establish those traits in individuals. And I think through, interaction with human interviewers, and again, that exploration of people's wider life experience and work experience, we can see where examples of these things can be gleaned. Identify and approach and passive candidates. This is a term that you might hear very much from the world of external recruitment, but it is, very much true that some of the best candidates out there for the roles you have, particularly around highly skilled and perhaps at the more professional end of the market, or the senior end of the market, are passive candidates. They aren't applying for jobs. They're not searching your website. Somebody needs to reach out and try and engage with these people, needs to identify them, find them, and have conversations and try and engage them in a recruitment process that they weren't actively looking for. Engaging with talent that might be struggling with technology. And I think this, there might be a number of reasons for this, certainly as we have an older demographic working, and it's a massive generalization, but I know some people, including, and I would very much include myself in this, as you've already seen by my inability to get myself off mute or click forward. I'm not as technologically advanced as my children are, and it favors, it sort of hinders people who are less technologically able or have access to technology. It disengages them from your recruitment process. And I know some of the roles we look at in our local authority partners, they are perhaps the other end of the spectrum, where the individuals that take those jobs don't have access to extensive technology, smartphones, and all of that stuff. And, you know, they still fill in paper application forms, but we still need those individuals to do the services that they do for us, whether that be in waste or refuse collection or driving or catering. So there's many an area of employment that, you know, don't engage with application processes in that technologically advanced way. And you know, a word probably a swear word to everybody in the world of talent acquisition, but selling an opportunity. You know, we're often speaking to our partners where, you know, we have to work out the EVP of the client. You know, we need to understand what is their offer that makes them a potential differentiator to a candidate pool out there. You know, an example of that, just to give you one, would be we support our local authority clients with the recruitment of social workers, recognise challenges in social work and care areas. So we have to work very closely with our partners to work out what the employee value proposition is of those organisations. So how we can, you know, engage with that audience and for want of a better word, sell or promote our organisation, our partner organisation above others. And you know, unless you are floating around with one of the best brands in the world that everybody wants to work for, you know, there's usually some element of trying to compete with that candidate over and above other people trying to compete with the same candidate. And the other side of it is really just that touch point. I think we've all, you know, experienced that. Yes, we love the interaction with automated, automated messaging, and yes, it can be more frequent. But, you know, does it make you feel unique and important? I think we've all, you know, had an experience, and not necessarily in a recruitment environment, but in one of those environments where we purchase something and the automated response seems to be so keen to get our feedback that we've kind of got a survey to complete before we've left the shop that we've bought something from. And you know, then we get another survey about how we found the kind of last survey. So there's that danger that we can kind of, you know, end up down an over touch point and lose track of where the human being was in that and how somebody felt important. And as more services become automated, and perhaps there's that idea of automation saturation at some point. So where I'd like to finish is really automation. You know, this is Bill Gates. Automation applied to an inefficient process will magnify the inefficiency. So, and then also in partnership really with this particular comment, which was, you know, trends and challenges in HR. So what I think undoubtedly the role of automation is there to be seen. And I think it will get more and more sophisticated and better. But I suppose what I wanted to ask in terms of a question is, should we rush headlong into that? Or should we always be mindful of the customer experience in our case right now, which is the candidate? So in HR companies, one of the most important strategic challenges in HR is to maintain a high level of employee engagement, which is difficult to achieve through technology alone. So I've rambled on and haven't left much time for questions, but that is the kind of conversation that I wanted to start really about, or pause the thought, I suppose, of where automation can go. Should we drive forward, or should we be hanging on to the human perspective in recruitment and those processes?
Okay, thank you very much, Steve, for that. Very enlightening. I will open it up for a few questions. I've just got one in the chat at the moment from Colin, and this was with regard to the automated process, where I think he's asking the question, should there be some human intervention in the selection process? Otherwise, would we be more open to challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, Colin, yes. I think the danger of going down a highly automated route is that you can, I'm not sure about challenge from a legal perspective. I'm not knowledgeable enough about HR, and I suspect there's a counter argument to say, well, we're doing away with bias, everybody got exactly the same experience, and actually going down a fully automated process is safer. But actually, I think the inverse of that is that right now in this market, the candidate is buying, we are selling to the candidate the opportunity to come and work for our organization. And I think if, for example, in the one-way process, they were being interviewed by a chatbot or some sort of AI functionality, they don't have that opportunity to question back, and they don't have that opportunity to enter into some sort of dialogue and feel like they're buying from another human, even though it's actually coming to join a company. You know, it's not the same to be able to say, well, can you ask a question of a human being? You to say to me, Stephen, feel free to ask some questions, or to say that to an automated process that will say, well, we'll come back to you with a response within 48 hours. So I think we do need those human interventions as part of that. I think, you know, we want to be careful from discounting the current climate, because, you know, you can get, for example, discounted because of grammatical errors or spelling errors. We recognize, you know, there's many people that might, for example, have dyslexia or some other challenges of that description. It doesn't mean they can't do the job. It just means perhaps their CV or application wasn't great. So there's many algorithms that can opt people in and out, when I think human beings could maybe investigate a bit further to see why those things are there. And I just think the danger in the current climate is opting people out. I'm not sure if that really answers the question, but.
Okay, well, I'm sure Colin can comment on that, although he has put a further one in the chat. Colin, you can, you know, speak with us if you want to, but obviously I'm just relaying what's in the chat there. So I think in response to that, Steve, what's been picked up there is that not everybody is the same, but they do need to be treated fairly and in an inclusive way, which I think what we're saying here is automation may not be able to accommodate that, those individual needs. So is there any other questions or comments anyone wants while we've got Steve with us? Is anyone else putting their hand up? You can just call in and ask a question. Nope, I can't see anybody else who wants to ask anything. Steve, anything else you want to just wrap up with before we close the session?
No, I mean, you know, like I say, I'm not a talent acquisition. I have done talent acquisition and I've seen these systems built, and I know HR professionals will have a much better view than I have of the benefits of talent acquisition within, the benefits of automation within their organization. And I think they're undoubtedly there. I think the light I wanted to shine a little bit was I spend, and have historically spent, a lot more of my time speaking to the individuals that are the recipients of being automated, if that makes sense. And I think it's important that when designing these systems and when looking at future use of these systems, that you recognize right now in the current employment market the importance of the candidate in this journey, because the market we were in 15 years ago is not the candidate market. Well, the market we were in 5 years ago is not the candidate market we're in now. That was kind of just the thought for the day, if you like. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone who's participated. I hope you found this helpful. We do actually share the webinar after the event. So again, if you did want to look back on some of those helpful slides, they will be provided for yourselves. And then just before I finish, a huge thank you to Steve for your time, very enlightening. And also we've got further webinars coming up. Next one will be on the 24th of February. If people are interested, it's on our website. But thank you very much, and thanks, Steve. Take care.